Hey there, everyone. Welcome back. Well, if you've been here before, then welcome back. And if this is your first time here, then welcome. I'm trying to get this. I mean, I do the daily, the just for today reading every single day, and I do the SPAD, which is the a spiritual principle of a day, every day. And in the most cases, I usually do a few days at once, and then I just have it set so it publishes for every single day. So that way, every day you get the right reading for the right time of day. And I lost my train of thought. Um, oh yeah, but since I'm also doing the basic text, which I'm trying to do it every day, but I'm struggling with my eyes right now because, well, for one, I broke my glasses a while back, and so the frames won't even hold the lenses anymore. And then, so I don't know if you've noticed in some of my videos that I've had tape around my glasses, which kind of was holding it together for me, and that was working for a bit. But then I woke up yesterday, I think it was, or and well, the arm was this time the arm was busted off, and so now I can't even wear them at all, and I need to get in to get my eyes re-examined and get some new prescriptions, but it's just I'm only covered for so much, and there's only so much I can do, and I'm pretty poor right now. Um, but so I picked up these reading glasses from Canadian Tire, which they're only like strength 400, but I almost need double that in order to see words clearly. It totally sucks. But I did manage to find these 400s, which does help me able to see a little bit better. I mean, I can at least function a little bit, and so even though I'm glad you can't see it below the camera line here, but I'm actually going to be using a second pair of glasses to, because even with just these, I can't see the words clear enough to read them. Like, I can just make out the words if I concentrate hard enough, but not well enough to try and, you know, come across at least somewhat understandable for you, you know, my my friends, my co-recoverers, my people, and so sorry, for those of you who don't know me, my name is John Clayton. I'm a recovering drug addict and alcoholic. And even though I'm in recovery, I'm still having my fair bit of struggles. But the bottom line is that I'm still clean and sober. And if you're here with me today, then I think it's safe to assume that you're clean and sober today as well, which is great. That means today we can do it together. So let's get started. Um, So yeah, so what is it? It's November 27th today, November 28th today, and we're still in the personal stories of, and so if you want what we have, is the title of this one. After a lifetime of using, this Southern gentleman learned that the most gracious thing he could do was open the doors to an NA meeting. In this story, from our first edition, he recalls that the first time a man told him that he loved him was in Narcotics Anonymous. My name is Bill, and I'm a junkie and a juicer. For many years of my life, I felt that the world had dealt me a cruel hand, which left me with many inadequate feelings. Fear ate a hole in me that I was never able to fill with drugs and alcohol. I was born in Alabama in 1933. My father's job required constant moving, which meant new schools and new faces. I was a small and sickly, and my insecurities and inadequacies around people increased. I fought these feelings verbally and with my fists. Punishment in some fashion followed me everywhere. My father died when I was 7, and I remember the hate I felt because he had felt an only child to fend for himself. A grandmother, an aunt, and mother spoiled me rotten. Every time the family thought, or sorry, every time the church door was open, I was there. At the age of 10, everyone in the family thought baptism was in order. I didn't feel any different when I got up than when I felt down. Control was in the name of the game. I tried to control everyone in our little family and outside, including the nun who caught me stealing drinks from a cold drinks in a convent. Sorry. Another form of punishment that I felt was rejection. My mother married a man who later proved to be an addict. We moved to another city, and the war within me intensified. Continuous fighting at home created more fear and insecurities. When I was away, I hated my home and resented the people in it. Drawing upon a different concepts, I began another way of living. It did not matter to me to what lengths I had to go in order to gain love and approval from everyone. Up went Up went the false front with more dishonesty and deceptions. I was so I was to spend sorry. I was to spend too many years of my life trying to be something that I was not. Relief came at the ripe old age of 16 in the form of alcohol at a dance. Immediately, my fear of girls was gone. My two left feet disappeared, and I knew exactly when and where to lay my newfound wisdom of people. The effects left, and I was back at war with me. I believe rules were made to be broken. Society's laws were not for me. They hampered my way of living and began to deal with my reality the only way I knew, and that was using the drug alcohol. This is the only drug I was aware of in the late 40s. I used it to ease the pain at the time. It was the best way to cope with them. Anyone could punch my buttons if I thought that. Oh, sorry. Um, Anyone could punch my buttons if I thought that it was needed for their approval of me. After a small skirmish with the school officials and city authorities, private school was necessary to finish high school. 2 years of college proved even further that this world and everything in it was full of crap. I cared for no one at this stage of my game. However, I met a young lady who met all of my requirements. She was from an old family, were regal in appearance, and possessed all the social graces. We ran off and got married. I entered into a new relationship that I was not mature enough to handle. I fancied myself in the future as the old southern gentleman, broad brim hat, bow, string tie, overlooking his vast domain with a mint julep in one hand and a gold cane in the other. Material things were the basis for happiness in my life at this time. I looked either up or down to people depending on their seemingly net worth. After attaining a lot of these things, happiness, and peace of mind did not come. My salary as purchasing agent at a large hospital was not enough. Stealing to support my materialistic ambitions was necessary. The salesman soon found my realistic ambitions was The salesman soon found my vulnerable spot: wine, women, and song. They began to supply my demand, drinking and partying every night. Soon, soon made a physical wreck out of me. In the latter part of 1954, I was introduced to a little goody called codeine by a salesman to draw a clean breath. Something was cruising in my every moment of every day. I was 21 years old and a full blown addict. Routine encounters of addicts and alcoholisms treated at the hospital convinced me that I was unique. I would never become like they were. The standards and expectations I set for myself and others were too high to be met. Negative thinking and escapism became my total personality. Greediness compelled me to study drugs and experiment. They may have saved my life while I was using. I feared certain combinations in trying to get off. The 60s came along and decided I needed a change. I left the hospital for what I thought were greener pastures and began to travel. Life was still hell. That old nest of negativism followed me everywhere that I went. Jobs came and went, and they came no more. The jails and hospitals stays were more frequent and longer. In 1973, I came into a mental ward. I was chained like an animal. My psychiatrist, who I constantly conned over the years, knew of my alcohol problem, but not to my other addictions. It was suggested that I try a 12-step program. My family was willing to try anything, so off I went for all the wrong reasons. People were kind and helpful to me, so I began to use them as I had others all my life. They had never seen my clean and dry, so how were they to know if I was using? I was very careful not to talk about too much of anything lest they become suspicious. Deception and denial were the games that I played, and they almost killed me. At this time, I had gotten off the hard stuff and onto downers, uppers, and elevators. People seemed happy and sober, and I wondered what they were using. I did not believe there was a fragment of honesty in me at the time. Willingness to change never crossed my mind. Gambling, women, and using were my bag. For over 3 years, I had lived in hopelessness and despair, going back to using and going back to the program. After hearing the higher power concept, and about a spiritual way of life, I knew drugs were not for me. I had at one time a got a way of sorry. I had at one time a God graciously given to me by my environment, whom I did not understand. I knew this God did not want anything to do with someone like me. There were times when I tried to relate, but there seemed to be something missing. I sincerely think that even though my feelings seemed to be the same as others, there seemed a lack of deeper understanding that I needed. God bless them, they tried. There were no recovering addicts in the area and NA, I, and no NA. I looked for people with other drugs dependencies and finally found one lady in the group. She had spent 10 years in and out without any success. Things did not get a little better. There were no arrests and things did get a little better. There were no arrests and no stays in the hospital for a period of 2 years. Then, in the fall of 1975, everything went to pieces. Back to the hospital I went again. Then a series of events began that changed my life. There was talk of committing me to the state institution. My family no longer wanted me like I was. Two program members came one afternoon to see me, and they both told me the same thing, that I wasn't crazy, to come back, don't use, and ask for help. My sponsor, who had fired herself several times from my case, picked me up and took me into a meeting. The girl who rode with me as oh sorry um, my sponsor, who had fired herself several times from my case, picked me up and took me to a meeting. The girl who rode with us spoke that night. She talked about God of her understanding. She the girl who rode with us the next to my okay, she talked about God of her understanding. Sitting next to my wife that night, I began to see where I had missed the boat. I went back to that dark room and thanked God for those people, because somehow I knew they cared. Even though they did not understand many things about me, they gave me time out of their lives and asked for nothing back. I remember the 11th step in the program, and I thought, maybe, just maybe, if I asked for knowledge of His will for me and the power to carry it out, He might help. I got a little brave. I knew that I wasn't honest. I added, P.S. Please help me get honest. It would be great to say that I left that hospital. I had never used again, but it didn't happen that way. It was almost like all the other confinements I had experienced. I came out of that hospital with exactly what I went in with, me. Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's passed just like a wink, blink, and a nod. And I was still praying. Everything got worse. My family kicked me out, and the day after New Year's, I knew it was hopeless. But I was still asking for honesty. On or around the 5th of January, I began to ease off the pills and I was using. It wasn't any fun, but I know today that all the suffering was necessary. Praying and tapering off had become my obsessions. I felt that this was my last chance. I took my last pill, shot, etc. in March. By God's grace, I was clean. People began to tell me, look what you have done, and began to believe them. I got to looking so good to me that I just began to believe them. I got to looking, oh sorry, I just read that. I got to looking so good to me that I just invited me out for a drink. What a rude awakening. I came off that drunk, cold turkey, no pills, nothing. For the first time in over 21 years, and for 5 days I shook, and I mean shook. On the fifth day, I wanted no more. I sat down in my little VW, bowed my head, and told God, if this is all in life for me, hang on, sorry. I sat down in my little VW, bowed my head, and told God, if this is all in life for me, I want life no longer. Death would be far more merciful. It doesn't make any difference any longer. I felt a peace come into me that I had never felt. I didn't know how long this lasted, and it doesn't matter. It happened, and that is the important part. Since then, I have experienced the same feelings from time to time. It was like the being brought forward from darkness to light. God doesn't let me stay in the sunlight no long too long, but he will help me if I choose to stay in the twilight. I walked away from that car in a free man. I did not realize this for a long time. Since that day, I have not had a desire to use. A God of my understanding had sent me enough honesty to get started down the right path. I went back to the program. I went back to the program again and made another mistake. I kept my mouth shut and the intention of being the winner teach me how to become clean. Today I know that for me, I walked a different path through addiction, and I had to walk a different path through this program. I had to learn about me. For almost 2 years in the program, I had saw people come and go with addictions other than alcohol. One night in Birmingham, I was sharing with a group and also talking about drugs when a man approached me with tears in his eyes. He told me of his sons and daughters somewhere hooked on drugs. He said, surely God must have some programs for people like them. All the way back home that night, I talked to a girl using drugs, a schoolmate of my wife. The telephone gave us an answer through some new friends and from Georgia and Tennessee. In Narcotics Anonymous, a visit to share in Chattanooga proved to be a blessing. Several people came up from Atlanta, including one guy from Marietta who kept telling people that he loved them. I was 44 years of age at the time that I was in the first time a man had ever told me that he loved me. For some unisex, plainable reason, I also felt his love. A couple of months later, we went to Atlanta and found a repetition of our first trip. I wanted so much to give and feel as these people did. At their at the close of the dance that night, I overheard something that went like this: if you want what we have, you have got to take the steps. I came back to Alabama and began to take the steps. I learned about me and found a God of my understanding. Trust God, clean house, help others, explains it as simply as I can. I spent many years looking for something around the corner or someone or someone coming down the street who would give me happiness and peace of mind. Today, through the steps and the people in NA, I have found a solution. I have to stay honest with me, stay open minded enough to change and be willing to accept God's loving for me through the members of NA. I am very grateful to our brothers and sisters in Georgia for their tolerance and support during our first year or so in the program in Alabama. They more or less sponsored me in those early days. Just looking, just knowing they, just knowing they were there was comforting. Many times I called my friend in Marietta, de- despondent over the way things were going. He always seemed to have the answers. Keep the doors open and God will do the rest. NA groups now have sprung up in several cities, and now those people are sponsoring me through their growth in NA and God's grace. I finally got it all together, but without God's help, I forget where I put it. There is one thing that I feel I can give to every addict to use. I love each and every one of you, and most importantly, God loves you too. I found this love in the wonderful program of NA. Through God's grace and the people, come join us. It works. And it does work. For the first time, like I'm 53, I'll be 54 in April. I've been clean and sober since February 21st to 2021, which means I got clean when I was 50. So that's a lifetime. I mean, most people that I know who've been in my life today, I've either died at 50 or younger. And I came close myself numerous times. 8 times in a year I overdosed. And I just couldn't stop using. I remember this one time, and actually, and I think it was the second time that I overdosed. And I didn't even know it was happening, and I thought only a couple minutes had gone by, and apparently something like 45 minutes had gone by or something. And, the 3 Norcan shots, and, but my point is, getting that is right after I come through because, the Norcan, it completely cleans, takes everything out of you. I mean, you're basically he go dope sick right away. But I right away I wanted another blast, and I just literally died. And so, my the girl I was with at the time was pretty upset with me. Well, no doubt. I mean, I don't blame her. I mean, pretty stupid and dumb on my part, but that just shows to how powerful that the drug is. And okay, I'm almost 4 years clean and sober today, and you know, thank God, thank my cat, thank everything that I've learned since I've been in recovery, you know, and still to this day I have no desire to use, and that's a miracle in itself. I never thought that I'd ever be able to put it down. You know, I thought the only way it was going down is if I was going down, and just the fact that I'm still here, and just the fact that now I'm in a position where I'm actually aware of myself enough to know how much I want to change and how important it is for me to try and be somewhat successful, since I do feel alone, because I don't have any you know immediate family. Like my biological father's dead, my mother's dead. My a lot of my aunts and uncles are dead. My grandparents are dead. You know, I have a couple of three half sisters and a half brother. We all have to share the same father, but I don't have a relationship with them, you know, and I wish that I did, but I don't, and that hurts. But there's nothing I can do about that. I've tried a few times, but maybe I don't do it right either. I'm trying my best to just survive, and the fact that I have a clear enough head now that to know that I want something better for myself, and how much that I've lost through my because of my addiction, and how I mean, I know you can't dwell on the past. You can't change the past. You can only move forward with the future. And, you know, my mom was 49 when she passed away. My grandmother was 52. My my grandpa was 66. You know, I think my real father, I think he was like 81 or something. So he was like the one in the family who's like lived the longest. So I figured that if I outlive my mother, then I'll most likely outlive my biological father. And who knows? All I know is that today I don't have to use dope. Today I don't want to use dope. And today I want to connect with you, and I want a relationship with you, and I just know that I want my life to be better than it was yesterday. Tomorrow I want my life to be better than it was today. And I figure as long as I'm learning something, it's a start. So I probably rambled a little bit long. Hopefully it wasn't enough to have you click away. I'm not the most intelligent person on the planet by far. But I struggle a lot trying to talk and trying to say what I feel because my thoughts jump around so much that it's hard. I find it difficult to maintain one point at a time because before I even get to the point, I've already forgotten what I was talking about, and that sucks. But anyway, so thank you for joining me today. I hope you made it all the way through. If you did, leave a comment. I'm sorry about the tears, and some of these stories really get to me sometimes because I connect to a lot of them on many different levels. So I look forward to seeing you again real soon. If nobody today has said that they love you, then I love you. And hit like and subscribe because I want to build this community into something special. I mean, we're already miracles, you know, if we're still here today. So, thank you. Bye for now.